Hello everyone, Namaste and welcome to F1 India. I'm your host Akash and today we'll be talking about the Austrian Grand Prix. But before we get into it, I just want to thank everybody of the F1 community, the FIA and Pirelli Motorsports for really taking the effort and all the safety measures to bring F1 down on the road again. Because after 104 days, I really couldn't be happier about F1. So there were a lot of things that have happened during the Austrian Grand Prix, and in this episode we'll be talking about all the intricate details. We'll be seeing the events and we'll be understanding how the future of this season would look like for each team. So let's get down to it. So first, as you can see, I'm wearing a red t-shirt so you can understand which fan I am. So it rhymes with Ferrari. And by this, I want to say, where was Ferrari's pace this season? I mean, yes, Mattia Binotto did tell us that, Ferrari will be a little off pace than compared to its rivals, but then the qualifying round really gave us the big picture on how far Ferrari was. I mean, as you could see, in free practice, they were still in P3 and P5, and in qualifying, in FP2, but then it was kind of okay. Like, we didn't think it would be bad, but then qualifying really gave the fans and Mattia Binotto himself a real big picture of how bad that is. Because I remember Charles Leclerc in Q3, he drove the wheels of that Ferrari and he was really shocked to understand that he was in P7. So I think that gave Charles Leclerc himself a really big image. And can you imagine a four-time world champion in a Ferrari getting out at Q2? You couldn't, neither could I. I mean, that was a really big shocker for all of us when he couldn't even get out in Q2, because from the last few years, we have always expected that the fight would be taken to the Mercedes-Benz at the end of everything, and them getting to Q3 was unsaid. But this time, everything didn't go back. We saw one thing consistent though. Sebastian Vettel again moved around and was facing the other direction of the road while everybody ran past him. So I think there's a few constant things about Ferrari. And yes, they have been facing some sort of an engine issue, which I would like to talk about a little bit, because we can understand that engine issue by not only Ferrari, but then Haas as well as Alfa Romeo, because both the teams could not almost manage into Q2. And I think Haas, Roman Grosjean was the only person who just managed to squeeze into Q2. But then all the other teams who use Ferrari engines were still out in Q1. So I think the problem lies in the engine, and that it cannot give a one lap pace, because in race pace they're quite decent on the medium tires, but then on one lap pace I think they're falling behind a lot. And I do not know how much of changes they can make to the engines in this season, because they have some sort of a ticket thing now. And yeah, so like them building up the engine again is something that I don't see, and I don't know how many developments they can make on the car to make it, faster. And second thing, McLaren's leap. McLaren had a huge leap during this winter season, and they're now challenging the likes of Red Bull. I mean, that's really, really far ahead, because going into the season, I knew the McLarens would be fast judging by the free practice, but I did not realize that they would be this fast. And yeah, they're actually quite competitive this season, and we could see by a strong qualifying session, they have qualified P4 and P8, and they also managed to finish P3 and P5. I mean, Lando Norris received his first podium this season, and boy, he couldn't be happier about it. And I think it was well deserved, even though his podium came because two of the Red Bulls could not make it and had DNF. So I'm a little iffy about it, but then kudos to the man. I think he drove like a pro. So there's nothing less to him, and he very well deserved that P3 position. Next thing is Red Bull's luck. I think if you bite another team too much, there's gonna be karma on you as well. Because even though they were competitive throughout free practice, qualifying, and the race, like Max Verstappen having that breakdown at lap 11 while he was almost catching the Mercedes-Benz was kind of a shocker actually. But then, that's what happens in Formula One. You cannot rely on something there's always reliability issues on your way. And Alex Albon hitting with Hamilton again, like it was just like last year's Brazilian Grand Prix. But then this time, I do not know whom to blame, and I think Hamilton has already received a 5-second penalty, so that is beyond it. And yeah, I think Red Bull kind of received the karma because they were throwing so many regulations and lawsuits towards Mercedes, and putting the Mercedes-Benz under the spec of FI, under the speculation of FIA, and giving Hamilton that 3-place penalty. And on top of that, they again started to accuse the DAS system of being illegal, which was again put to rest. So I think if you think about other teams so much, your own team is gonna have a bit of bad luck. And next thing I want to talk about is the Mercedes-Benz package. I mean, have you seen the dominance this season? That was uncanny, to say the least. Because, first of all, their qualifying 2 timing was better than what the other teams did in qualifying 3. That is uncanny. Like, that shows how dominating they are this season and how good they have become this season. And the progression of goodness, let's say, that has happened throughout like the V6 era. So hats off to them. I mean, there's nothing less I could say. They had managed the race the whole way, and even though through all the penalties, all the regulation talks, all the DAS system problems, they still managed to come out ahead and come out swinging. I mean, Valtteri Bottas, kudos to him. P1, what a race. Brilliant performance. Even though he was under so much stress from Lewis Hamilton himself, he really managed to put that race together. And Lewis Hamilton too. I know he had a contact and he lost places and everything, but still, a P4 after all that, I would say he's still a dominating person. And I think Valtteri Bottas should watch out for him next race. And they were facing a lot of engine problems, like the sensors were not working because they were too much onto the curbs. And we heard from the pits of Mercedes-Benz that they were strictly told on radio to stay away from the curbs so that they do not, harm the engine anymore, because they had almost reached a critical stage. So with that in mind, I really don't think this would be a problem going ahead, because Mercedes-Benz have always, strived to be better and better. So I think they'll come up with a solution out of this, and a small issue like this wouldn't hold back Mercedes-Benz. So kudos to them. And the king of double stacking. Like, have you seen them double stack? They're like a pro. They have done it. They've done it last season. They've done it last season, and they've done it this season. It's like they're mocking all the other teams that like doing a good pit stop is not the only thing. A double pit stop is what you should look for. So they're doing it really fine, and they're doing an amazing job at it. So that's something I really like. And even after the bombardments of so much of lawsuits and so much of problems, them coming out, I think that's a really good job. Tracing Point. Yeah, it's a little funny when people, I've heard about Racing Point being told as Tracing Point, but I really don't see a problem in that, because it brings racers even close. I mean, the Racing Points, even though Lance Stroll had faced issues, Racing Point will become a competitive team, and since they're on such a tight budget, we cannot expect them to make all the developments of the car. And even though you trace a car, it's not all. There are so many intricacies into Formula One that it's not the thing that will work. It's not making a paper boat. So even though they have traced the design philosophy, they themselves have said, but to make it work on the track and to get everything up and running and in such a competitive format, kudos to them. Hats off to them. So I really don't see it as a problem, and unfortunate for Lance Stroll, who faced a few issues and had to retire from the race. Sergio Perez just missing out with after the fight with Lando Norris and receiving a 5-second penalty. I think they're a really good team, and they have a lot to show this season. So I would better watch out for them. 11 cars finished only this season. I mean, this race. So that was kind of a shocker, because we saw like cars falling out like flies in the middle of the race. And I'll tell you who all did not finish. Ricciardo from Renault, George Russell, Kimi Raikkonen, both the Hasses, both the Red Bulls, Danny Kvyat and Lance Stroll. I mean, if out of all the retirements, the most exciting one was Kimi Raikkonen's, I'm really happy he's safe. But then the way that wheel flew off from the car, it was really shocking to see. Like, wow. You should go and watch it yourself. Like, that's a sight to behold. And Danny Kvyat going out at lap 70 because of a tire failure. I mean, oh god, that would have hurt him so much. Seventh point is kind of an important point because this season we saw Formula One taking a step ahead into the social world and actually giving out a good social message in the names of Black Lives Matter and We Races One initiative. So I'm really happy that I'm part of such community, because having a social awareness and using it so well, it's hats off to the F1 community. And I think I should especially thank Lewis Hamilton for it, because he was kind of the one who took the initiative ahead with all the Black Lives Matter movement. And Mercedes painting their whole car black was a really strong message to the outside world that the racing community really understands where the whole situation lies with this. And I think, as we have all seen the pictures come out, all the drivers had taken a knee with a no racism t-shirt. That was really cool. I mean, I did it. It's not part of an expecting, but they did it, and the way they did it was really respectable, and it shows a strong message to the outside world. And We Race is One initiative. I mean, that's one of the bigger points that I want to talk about, because coming in, Kerry Chase had invested $1 million into the initiative, saying that F1 would become more inclusive and more open to all the communities of the world. And that's a really good initiative to take. And I have seen, as we have all seen, that all the teams have been embracing this initiative really nicely. And that's a really good culture to have in Formula One. So guys, that's it from today. And I hope you guys liked it. And please let us know in the comment section below if we can improve this thing in any way. And thank you so much. And I'll be there next Tuesday. I hope you guys enjoy it. Stay safe and see you soon on Tuesday. Thank you.